So I had a person call me today asking about how the process of mediation works and trying to figure out if that was the right process for her and her soon-to-be ex-partner to follow. So her caveat was that she's dealing with a really difficult partner that she's trying to split from, and she's just not sure, is mediation going to be the right process for her? So my answer is always mediation is always a better route than going down the route of court or a nasty legal battle, or even if you don't end up in court and you're using lawyers, but it's a very adversarial process between those lawyers, mediation's always better than that. In terms of dealing with a difficult partner, I certainly understand, how that goes and what the dynamics are. I've been there. I've gone through this process myself. I walk the talk. And I too felt like that when I went through it. Like, I'm dealing with somebody who's very challenging. How could we possibly agree on something in mediation? And the reality is, we did end up getting our parenting plan in mediation, and we ended up doing much better in mediation than we did while we were in a court battle. It was a very nasty process. It was extremely expensive. And ultimately, after quite a while going through court, we were not any further ahead in those years than when we started. And so I was really pleased that eventually we found mediation, which we didn't know anything about at the time when we started the whole process. And when we found mediation, that was really the answer for us. Now, the reality is there are going to be families where mediation may not be the appropriate venue for you to go through your separation. There could be domestic violence involved. There could be a huge power imbalance where, one partner is feeling a huge sense of power and the other one just isn't. And maybe it's not balanced, and maybe that's just not the right venue for them. Everyone's situation is different. But in my view, trying mediation is an investment in you. Why do I say that? Because again, you don't know for sure that it's not going to work, even in that situation where you're dealing with a difficult partner. And because of my own personal experience, that's why I really encourage people to try. Because at the end of the day, even if mediation doesn't work for you, what do you have to lose by trying? Ultimately, with any mediator, they're going to do an intake session with you, each separately. In that session, they're going to ask you some questions, probably have you fill out a form, and they're going to gauge sort of the dynamic between the two of you. They're going to identify, are you good candidates for mediation? And if you are, they're also, by asking those questions, figuring out how can they set up the mediation process specific and unique to your family circumstances. How can they set you up for success in that mediation? So you're paying for that intake session, each of you, and then you're jumping into a mediation session that you schedule with them. And even if that one mediation session doesn't go well, or you feel like, no, you know what, this isn't the right process for us, how much have you really wasted? In my view, nothing. Again, you've spent money on an intake, and you've spent money that you've shared the cost of the mediation session itself. Each of you are entitled to terminate that mediation session right in the middle of it. You will sign a contract with the mediator that basically says if any of you, including the mediator, feels like this isn't going well, you're free to terminate. So, you'll get your money back for the part of that session that you didn't use. So again, you haven't really wasted anything. And there's all upside to this, because in the event that the mediation works, what have you done for yourself? You have gotten the two of you into a process that's not adversarial. It is not intended to be adversarial. Mediation is intended to be a process whereby the two of you are actually working together to, think about different scenarios, brainstorm different scenarios for each of you getting what you want out of the separation. And as difficult and as odd as it seems or sounds to think about your mediation as a business negotiation, that's ultimately what you're trying to do. You're trying as best you can to try to push the emotions aside in that moment so that you can have a rational, intelligent dialogue just about what it is that you need. What are your needs and wants? And in some situations, your agendas might actually be slightly different. And in some cases, that can actually be a good thing, because the mediator can help you see if one partner wants X and the other partner wants Y when they're going through this mediation, how can the two of you work together, and how can the mediator brainstorm to get you each what you want out of that mediation? And ultimately, what you're trying to do, the goal out of mediation, I mean, you have to remember it is a divorce, it is a separation. It's not happy, it's not fun, and it's not easy. And it doesn't mean you're going to come out of this mediation jumping for joy that you got everything you want and you're really happy. But what you're trying to do is get as much out of that session as you can. And really, the goal is you want something that you can live with. So, yes, I'm not going to be happy that I'm divorcing and going through this whole process. But if I can get my needs met out of this mediation, so at least I'm covering off those things that are extremely important to me. There might be some horse trading, right? Like something might not be the most important to me. I want this thing, but I can live without it if I can't get it. At least if I've gotten those things that are super important to me, I can live with that. And the same for the soon-to-be ex-partner. In a mediation, it allows you the flexibility to come up with different scenarios that may meet your needs and your unique family situation. In a cookie cutter divorce approach where you go through court, you don't have that option to be flexible, and you certainly don't have the option where the two of you are deciding what the outcome of your settlement is going to be. You are stuck with whatever a judge rules for you. That becomes a binding order that you have to follow, and you had no say. You're giving up so much, and you have so much risk by going through court where a perfect stranger who is the judge, who's only met you in the moment they're with you, is deciding on something that you're going to follow for a great many years while your kids are growing up, or as you're going through your financial settlement. You really want to think about if that's the avenue you want to take. It's very scary, and again, there's a huge amount of risk. And if you think about the statistics, for people that ultimately end up in a trial, and to get to a trial, you have spent a ton of money on legal fees, you have spent a ton of time to get to the ultimate trial, because you will have gone through case conferences and other negotiation tactics and motions. It's a long time before you actually get to the final trial. And the people who do end up going through a trial, would you believe that over 90% of those cases, the people actually settle on their ultimate settlement before getting the judgment from the judge? And why do they do this? They do this because they realize in that moment there is so much risk, again, that this judge who is a stranger to them, who doesn't know their life, doesn't know their kids, doesn't know what's best for them personally, is deciding for them. And when they realize that, and they're negotiating outside of the trial and saying, let's just come up with an agreement, because now I'm afraid, what if I don't get what I thought I was going to get? Because sometimes we end up principled. We just feel like, the principles of what we feel is fair. And so maybe that was one of the reasons we ended up in trial. Maybe somebody was just digging their heels in the sand, and it was so difficult that we had no other choice but to get to trial. And then we got there and we realized, hold on a second. I don't think that I want that risk of this stranger ruling my life. So if over 90% of these people who end up there actually do settle outside of court, why would you become one of those statistics? Why wouldn't you go through a mediation, again, where you have ultimate control over the final settlement, because it's really what the two of you have agreed on. No external party is telling you what you need to agree on. Why wouldn't you try the mediation knowing that those are the statistics? Why wouldn't you try the mediation knowing that you are in control of that settlement? And perhaps one of the best things that will come out of a mediation, because it's not really a he said, she said, this is what's bad about that person and this is what they did versus what I did. That's not what it's about. It's about the mediator facilitating a difficult conversation and helping you through and guiding you through. The principles of family law will still be followed, and here's what the law says about these different issues and your rights and obligations, which you've also spoken to your lawyers about to have an understanding. But ultimately, that mediation is meant for the two of you to work together in a positive fashion. It's meant so that you come out of that agreement, again, you come out with an agreement that you can both live with. And so the hope is that you're not coming out of that hating each other as you would going through court, because believe me, going through court, you're not going to like each other. Nobody's going to be happy going through court, because even the person who wins, you'll never win everything that you've asked for. So you're not happy coming out of that. And certainly coming out of a battle of he said, she said, and I'm trying to make my case look better, and I'm trying to make myself look better and the other person look worse, no one's going to come out of that liking each other. And you have these beautiful children that you have to take care of and co-parent together. How's that going to go if you've gone through such a negative, nasty battle versus going through a mediation where you come out, certainly not hating each other and maybe still liking each other? Look at the difference that that's going to make on your co-parenting relationship. If I have to deal with this person for many, many years as my children grow, I don't want to have to hate them, because it means that every time I deal with that person, there's drama. There's drama about, maybe minute decisions that have to be made, drama about big decisions that have to be made. Communication becomes an issue because we hate each other. It's just so much negativity, and it causes so much stress. Is that really what you want for your relationship moving forward? No, you got out of this relationship to minimize the stress and drama and the badness. So why not go through a process that helps you get out of it in a nicer way, in an amicable way, so that you can in fact deal with each other and co-parent with each other nicely? It could be so nice that you might even see each other and have dinners with each other every now and then, that the children and the two of you still get together every once in a while because you don't hate each other. And imagine that impact on the children, seeing my parents can come out of this mature, my parents can come out of this nicely, my parents can deal with each other respectfully and cooperatively, and I as the child don't have to deal with the drama of going back and forth with all the negativity. I don't have to deal with parents that are bad mouthing each other. Why? Because they went through this process that was a nice process that helped them come out of it still liking each other. There's nothing, you have nothing to lose by going through a mediation, and in my view, you have everything to gain. It is an investment in yourself, it is an investment in your children, it is an investment in your sanity moving forward, because again, you have eliminated a whole ton of negativity that might have been there had you gone to court or had you gone through a really nasty battle, versus going through this positive experience where you're working together to resolve your separation. And worst case scenario, in a mediation, you have a number of big issues you have to deal with, such as parenting, child support, spousal support, and property division. I'm willing to bet, even if you couldn't agree on everything, you would be able to agree on most of that stuff. So at the very least, you've now eliminated a bunch of issues that have been dealt with through a mediation, much cheaper, much faster, much nicer than going through court. And even if you only have one issue left, you've still saved yourself a ton of money, time, and stress. Again, you have nothing to lose but everything to gain by trying to go through a mediation. So consider it. Have a great day.